What were you going to say?
I was going to say that.
I'm awfully sorry. I should have called on you. Winkin', Blinkin' and Nod from Mr. Rogers. Who wrote Winkin', Blinkin' and Nod?
James?
Eugene Field.
Eugene Field. You were going to say James Whitcomb Riley. Well, everybody makes that mistake when you at the beginning. After a while, you begin to separate them. How about this one? I've flown around the world in a plane.
I know that one.
Mr. Levant.
I've flown around, but I can't get started with you.
Don't look at me, Mr. Levant.
That's the song.
That's the song. Right. Flown around the world in a plane. I've settled revolutions in Spain. The North Pole I've charted, but I can't get started with you. Very good. Well, that gives us 2 out of 3. How about this one from Eugene Dvorovy of Blue Island, Illinois? If you were in the Army, gentlemen, and heard these bugle calls, what would you do? There are going to be 3 of them. We have to get 2 out of 3. Let's have the first. How about it, Mr. Yes, Mr. Rogers?
You'd stand at attention.
You do what?
Retreat.
Well, which? How about it? No, I think that's wrong. Mr. Kieran?
Well, you could get ready to go to bed if you wanted, but you wouldn't necessarily have to hurry.
Yes.
That's tattoo.
Tattoo, yes. The tattoo is right. You extinguish all lights in your living quarters. It sounded at what time, Mr. Kieran?
Well, in our army, which was a very old-fashioned army, it was sounded at 9 o'clock.
I think the same is still true. It still sounded at 9 p.m. Have to call that wrong. Now, how about the next one? Yes, Mr. Rogers.
Well, there you would stand at attention.
What does that mean?
That is, I don't know what you call it. It's when they lower the flag.
Yes, that's quite right, Mr. Rogers. It's retreat. You stand at attention. It's the call for the official lowering of the flag. That's absolutely right. And now the third and last.
I don't know the answer, but he plays those bugle calls very well.
He plays them very well.
Well, I'll take a chance. I don't remember that, and I think it's a call that is infrequently played, so it might be pay call.
No.
Mr.
No,
Rogers,
I know that.
Got another idea?
Oh, you would know pay call. You must have been in a good army.
That isn't a news weekly, is it?
No, it's fatigue. It means it's a call to ordinary post work, shoveling snow or some similar task. Well, I guess we lose $57 in war bonds and stamps to Dvorovy and a set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Ladies and gentlemen, the H.J. Heinz Company is surrendering its commercial time tonight so that we may listen to a few words from Private Carl Drake of the Army Air Forces.
Well, Mr. Fetterman, there isn't much of a story. I'm Private Drake of Oklahoma. I served 8 months in the British Isles, and now I'm back here for hospitalization. When we got to Britain, the first people to help us were Red Cross workers. When we got to London on leave and felt strange or lonesome, we went to Red Cross clubs and got bed and breakfast for 4 vets, and free tickets to the theaters, sightseeing tours, and everything to keep a fellow from getting homesick. Well, I was wounded. I can't tell you how or when, and I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for Red Cross blood plasma. When I came out of the ether, the first thing I saw was an American Red Cross nurse smiling at me. An American smile. Folks, the Red Cross is our lifeline to home. Don't cut it. Don't weaken it. Make it stronger. We need it, and we can't do without it.
Well, I don't know how much... I was going to say that I don't know how much that American smile was worth to Private Drake. Suppose we figure it at $125 million. Ladies and gentlemen, the rest is up to you. And now we'll go on with a question from Helen Gray Solomon of Nashville, Tennessee. We have to get 2 out of 3 on this one, gentlemen. Identify the soldier of fiction who joined an army after rescuing the woman he loved from a burning city. Mr. Levant.
Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
Red Butler.
Red Butler is right. Perfect response. How about a soldier who joined an army while on a year's leave from the university where he was an instructor?
Oh.
Mr. Levant again.
Is that Mrs. Garson again?
Who?
Mrs. What's her name? Greer Garson.
No.
She was in that.
No. It's understandable that you have her on your mind, but it wasn't Greer Garson. No, it was the hero of Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. The hero's name was what?
Jordan. Robert
Yes,
Jordan.
Very good, Mr. Levant. Robert Jordan. And what side was he on?
He was on the Loyalist side.
Yes, otherwise known as the Spanish side, Mr. Levant. Now, which soldier of fiction joined an army because all his classmates did at the urging of his teacher? Well, this goes back
that's
quite a
Leslie
way.
Howard. You remember that?
No, I don't remember it.
You can't afford pictures, incidentally.
No.
That was
can't
the
afford
invaders.
me.
No, not the invaders.
You can't afford books.
Now, Mr. Levant, how about straightening us out?
Well, that was the story with Leslie Howard, whether you could afford it or not.
But what picture was it?
He was a professor, and they took a tour through Germany around 1939, in the summer of 39.
Well, I don't think that is the answer, though it sounds kind of convincing to me. It's All Quiet on the Western Front. And it's the hero of that book, Paul Baumer. That goes back a couple of years, even in pictures. And I guess, let's see, that sends $57 to Miss Solomon in war bonds and stamps and a set of the Britannica. How about this one from S.J. Schwartz, Jr., of New Orleans, Louisiana. Oh, this is all about ex-congressman, Mr. Rogers. Who was an ex-congressman who was elected president twice? Now, there's a cheerful idea, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Levant, as a matter of fact, there were several. Mr. Adams.
Abraham Lincoln was one.
That's quite right, Mr. Adams. Abraham Lincoln, the most famous, and there were 2 others of lesser fame. Congressmen who were later elected president 2 times, Mr. Adams?
Andrew Jackson.
I think not.
Theodore Roosevelt?
No, I think not.
What-
Mr.
Was McKinley?
Yes, Mr.
McKinley.
Kieran has it right. William McKinley, and the other one is James Madison. Now, how about an ex-congressman who conducted the Philharmonic?
Oh.
Mr. Levant?
That's tricky, huh?
I don't
That's LaGuardia.
Yes, he did conduct the Philharmonic.
He does it every week with those air raids.
Was it the Firebird music that he conducted, Mr. Levant?
He likes noise, I'll tell you that.
And an ex-congressman, gentlemen, who is now a cabinet member. That should be an easy one. A very distinguished public servant. An ex-congressman who is now a cabinet member. Oh, come. Mr. Rogers?
Was Secretary of War Stimson?
I think not. No, I think not.
It
Cordell Hull is the right answer.
That's right.
Cordell Hull, our Secretary of State. Well, I guess we did get 2 out of 3 right on that one. How about this one from Mrs. E.C. Turner of New York? Identify the literary or fictitious characters who traveled in the following way. I'll give you the route. The first traveled from Grand Pré to Louisiana to the Ozarks to Michigan to Philadelphia. Mr. Kieran?
Evangeline.
Yes. Whom was Evangeline seeking?
She was seeking Gabriel.
That's right. In whose home?
Longfellow's Evangeline.
Yes, 100%. Now, how about this one? Who traveled from Memphis to St. Joe? Mr. Levant?
My mama done told me. Da-da-da-dee-dee-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-dum.
That's the one. So
Da-dee-da-da-da-dum.
it was really the mama who did the traveling then.
The lyric writer wrote it, Johnny Mercer. He can tell you about
He
it.
can tell us. How about this one? Who traveled from Paris to Pamplona to Bayonne to San Sebastian to Madrid?
Is that-
Paris to Pamplona to Bayonne to San Sebastian to Madrid.
Where's Bayonne?
Not in New Jersey.
Is that...
Mr. Adams?
Anthony Adverse.
That's just a wild guess, isn't it?
That's just a wild guess.
Is that
Picturesque of you.
Archbishop Spellman?
No. No, it's a fictitious character.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Fictitious character, and the answer is Jake, a character in what book?
Jake.
The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway. Mr. Rogers, you had that on the tip of your tongue.
No.
Yes, you did. Well, that gives us 2 out of 3. How about this one from A.M. Rosen of Houston, Texas? In which two services do you find these equivalent ranks? Lieutenant and captain. They're equivalent in what two services? Mr. Kieran?
Well, a lieutenant in the Navy is equivalent to a captain in the Army.
That's exactly right, Mr. Kieran. Now, here are 2 more equivalent ranks. These get harder. Sergeant Major and Master Sergeant. Sergeant Major and Master Sergeant. Mr. Rogers?
The Marines.
Right.
And the Army.
That's exactly right, Mr. Rogers. Good going. Now, how about this? Third officer and ensign. This is a tough one. You sure about it, Oscar?
I never was sure of anything in my life. One is the Navy. Let John take the hard part.
Mr. Mr. Kieran?
Third officer and what?
Third officer and ensign.
Well, they're both
Both in the Navy.
No, not both in the United States Navy.
No.
One
British
would
Navy
be.
and the
No,
United
now
States
let's
Navy.
let's stick to our own service, Mr. Adams. Let's stick to our own.
I think the other would be in the Merchant Marine.
Don't think so.
Well, then it might be in the British Navy.
Maybe it's a ball
It
player.
is,
I don't know.
it is the Merchant Marine.
You've got me thoroughly confounded.
Well, what is it?
No, the answer is this. The third officer is an officer in the wax, and that's the same as an ensign in the waves. Get it? Well, I don't see why you two people shouldn't know that.
I'm not allowed to see women after dark.
Mr. Rogers, I bet if we had Congressman Luce down here, she would have known it. Well, that gives us 2 out of 3. How about this one from Miss May Farley of Campbell, California? Who is the it referred to in these lines? It flooded the crimson twilight like the close of an angel's psalm. Mr. Adams?
The Lost Chord.
Yes, Lost Chord. It's a very famous poem, and I suppose very few people know who wrote it. Do you, Mr. Adams?
Who wrote the poem?
Yeah.
S. Baring Gould.
I think you're thinking of Onward Christian Soldiers.
I am. Who wrote the poem? Elizabeth Akers Allen or somebody like that.
No, Adelaide A. Proctor.
Adelaide Ann Proctor, and Sullivan wrote the music.
A more useless bit of information has never been vouchsafed on this program, Mr. Adams. Even lazy jellyfish can do it.
What?
Even lazy jellyfish can do it. Mr. Levant?
My mama done told me. I don't know.
Well, you got the general idea. The it refers to what?
Dancing.
No. Falling in love. Falling in love.
Oh, is that Cole Porter?
That's Cole Porter, yes. How about this one? It will never pass into nothingness. Mr. Kieran?
That is from the Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. It's Endymion. And opening of Endymion.
Yes. How does it
Thing
go?
of beauty is a joy forever.
Yes. Can you give us a line or 2 more?
No, I can't. It's
I bet you
not
could.
so
Mr.
very
Kieran.
easy. It will never pass
Loveliness increases. It will never pass into
into nothingness, but will ever keep a bower and something where
There
we
you
can.
are. I knew you knew it. That's right. Well, that gives us 2 out of 3. Now, the H.J. Heinz Company tonight has paid out $228 in war bonds and stamps and 4 sets of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Mr. Rogers, our best thanks. Next week, the Adams-Levant-Kieran combination will bat out the answers from our New York studios, while our guest, the cinema maestro Gregory Ratoff, answers them from Hollywood through a special hookup which I couldn't explain even if I understood it. Remember, send your questions and the correct answers to Information Please at 570 Lexington Avenue, New York City. And now our Heinz reporter, Ben Grauer, has a word for the grocers of America.
Yes, Mr. Fetterman. I want to invite every grocer to ask his Heinz man for a supply of ration budget forms for his customers. They help you give Mrs. America better, quicker service. And next Monday night, we'll be back again at the very same spot on your dial with another session of Information Please. Until then, the H.J. Heinz Company, makers of the 57 varieties, bids you good night.